Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? Today with another Spright variant, yay! Someone asked in the comments if I could make this, and I kind of had it planned, but I didn't want it to be the first one. And now I'm in a massive backlog with replay videos, and I don't have that much time, and 2 festivals we'll have to grind gems. It's a disaster, but let's go. We start out with double Tri-Brigade Nerval. 3 is a bit much, I felt like. 2 is roundabout fine. It's not insane, it's not crazy. It does some stuff. You do only play 1 Shurek, so you don't really want this card at 3. It's not a level 2. I felt like 2 was the right ratio, but you could bump it up to 3, especially since we do run triple Keras. So if you discard from your hand, it does start some of your combos, so that's technically not bad. 1 Wind Up Kitten, it's a beast monster, so that helps. It can be summoned off going second technically by gigantic Spright, so it can bounce stuff back to the opponent's hand. Technically you can play this with stuff like Maxi and search Maxi out and bounce it back to your hand with Wind Up Kitten, which it's convoluted, but technically it is possible. So there's that. It's a thing that you could be playing. It's a thing that you could be doing. And it's a beast monster, so it does help for certain other things. Caligo Clawcrow is a dark monster. If you ever get any of your Spright engine out, or you have your Shurek on board, then you can easily summon this monster, which isn't too bad. It's a winged beast, so you could also discard it by Tri-Brigade Keras, which is quite nice. And also it's a dark monster that helps you go into a Djinn Buster, so this card has some form of usage in this deck at least. We have Tri-Brigade Keras at 3 actually. Usually you wouldn't do this, and I was debating if I should, but I felt good at 3. It didn't feel too bad. You can normal summon it, so it's level 2, so you can get into your Spright stuff and other stuff that you have. You can discard one of your beast monsters to special summon it, which is also good because you don't have that many play starters, because you don't run Nimble Beaver. Yes, you probably should, but I will refuse to craft this card, and I will find ways around it, because once Spright gets inevitably hit by the ban list eventually, then Nimble Beaver is going to be absolutely terrible, and you will never play this card again. It is a beast monster, so it would help the deck, so keep that in mind if you want to. You can cut certain cards, you can cut some of the Spright Carrot, for example, you could cut Keras, and so on, and then play like the whole Nimble Beaver package. But if we're trying to keep it as cheap as possible, and if we're trying to not spend our money on Beaver, then this is the way forward, in my opinion, because you can easily get certain stuff started. Kit, also kind of the same. Level 2, you can summon it off a gigantic Spright, get some stuff started, because when this card's sent to the graveyard, then you can send other stuff to the graveyard, then you can add stuff to your hand, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's a beast monster, it's level 2, it does stuff. Sadly, it's not dark, but it's fire, but doesn't matter. The other ones aren't dark either. Dark monster is very good. Spright Brew, you kind of do want to play 3 of it, but since this is a budget version, 1 is genuinely fine. Obviously in the grind game you'll kind of regret it. There's points where like you would want 3, but the deck isn't unplayable if you just run 1, so I feel like 1 does it for now. Spright Jet, very, very strong cards, definitely a 3 off. It's a dark, so it helps with the Claw Crow, and it searches you your starter or your smashers, which is very, very strong. You could cut 1 smasher and play like one other kind of hand trappy stuff. 1 smashers in this kind of specific deck profile is technically enough, but it's not too bad if you actually draw into the card. Then if at 2 you have a higher chance of drawing into it, and there's also, if you draw into 2, a way to put it back into the deck with all of your Tri-Brigades, so I felt like 2 wasn't actually that bad, because then you can still search for starter, and that's also not bad. Battle stuff, sometimes you do need this. Spright Red, actually quite nice to, if you have a level 2 monster somehow already on board, preferably a special summon, but sometimes it has to be a normal summon, then you can actually stop Ash Blossom, which can be quite nice. So this card for me in a budget version is definitely a 3 off, because it is nice to be able to do this and then still use stuff like that summons from deck, for example like starter, and then stuff can't be ashed. So that is at least something. A card that you could cut is Spright Carrot, but these monsters also special summon themselves, so they also not only disruptions but also starters. And if you, which in this deck is a bit harder, could keep your Spright Elf up, then you can still use Spright Elf during your opponent's turn and summon one of your negates back, which is also quite nice. So there's that, and that's why I like that in a budget variant, but obviously they're all searchable and stuff, so you technically could cut this one down to 2 or to 1 even if you would like to. Ash Blossom, you basically get it for free and it's a hand trap, so yes, definitely run this card as usual. Tri-Brigade Fractal, I like the card, play starter, does a lot of stuff, searchable with Tinky, gets you into a Tri-Brigade combo, so yeah, I would run it at 3 if I could. Same for Tenki, basically does the exact same stuff. Forbidden Chalice, very nice card, going first, going second, budgety. Forbidden Droplet, most people will have opened this bundle by now. If you don't, there's still other stuff that you can play. It's not the end of the world. You could decide to run some Kaijus, you could decide to run some other traps if you want to go first. You could even play stuff like Book of Moon if you really like. Any other hand trap does it. This card is not essential, but it is good. Spright Starter, very, very nice. Don't have to explain to you what that card does. Literally, the name kind of says it as well. Spright Smashers, very good searchable disruption. Could cut it down to 1 if you want to, but yeah, I feel like a 2 is fine. Lost Wind, very, very strong card, especially because the deck aims to go first, and you lack a lot of power that the other variants have, and you lack some hand traps. And how do we fill this up? With a card that helps in the grind game, reduces your opponent's attack points, so it makes it easier to finish. And it negates effects. Sadly, only of special summon monsters, but I mean, this card does still enough. Infinite Permanence, could also play more of this. Very good card. Hand trap, of course, but we basically get 1 for free, so it's in here at 1. Revolt, very, very strong card. Keep in mind, though, if you're not a Tri-Brigade player, keep in mind, these you can summon your link monsters back with this card to use it as the link material for your Shurik, but they have to be actually made by link summoning them, not by summoning them off of your Tri-Brigade monster. So if you use the effect to summon them, then they're not properly link summoned, and you cannot summon them from your graveyard. If you have actually used materials on the field to link summon them, then you can actually summon them back with Revolt, and then it doesn't matter if you only have 3 spaces. Something to keep in mind, because I tended to forget at the start, and yeah, that won't happen to me anymore, and now hopefully it won't happen to you either. Herald of Pure Light, in here, because it can reset your extra deck monsters. It can reset Shurik, for example. I can reset Gigantic Spright, and I can reset Spright Elf, because you have quite a lot of level 2 stuff, and sometimes you can easily go into this one and then get another monster out still. And if you can do this, then you can start your combos again by going into Spright Elf, because you can actually use a rank 2 monster with it. Just a way to get Elf back to your extra deck, so that can be quite nice, or get some play starters back to your hand, so it's not too bad. You don't have to run it, but I felt like it actually did some stuff occasionally. This card's good against hand traps, doesn't come up crazy much, so you could substitute this, but yeah, it is what it is. Cat Shark actually can be used in some OTKs that feature the lesser known spell card of Spright, the one that boosts everything by 1400 attack, and use this card while losing a linked monster as one of your materials, and then as 3600 you double it, you then boost it even more, and the other way around. And yeah, Cat Shark can be quite nice to get over certain stuff, because it even turns like from Logos into 4400 attacker, so that's not bad either. Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin is quite nice, because it also reduces your opponent's monster's attack to 0, and it negates the effect. It's not a quick effect because it's not summoned with a Phantom Knights card, but that is still fine. Gigantic Spright at 1, it's very nice. Could run it at 2, but I think 1 should be okay. Prog Leo to get your Spright Elf back, to get any other kind of link monster back, because this is quite a linky deck, and it's not too hard to get this card out and to get another monster pointing to it, so I felt like this card was kind of neat. Ferrigid, yeah, I feel like it doesn't come up as much in this variant as it could, but it can help you going into certain important things, and it can put stuff back into your deck, certain cards that you can search that you don't really want, stuff like Spright Smashers, for example, or one of the other Spright cards, and then draw into an actual good card that you can use. This card, very, very important, because it does search Revolt, but make sure you have 1 card in your hand that you didn't use, and you don't necessarily super need, because you will have to put 1 card back in your deck as well. Spright Elf, very, very strong Spright card. Don't have to say much to that one anymore. Deco Talker, budget hero, is in here just, you know, for the occasional you need a high attack point monster or some protection. This card does stuff, but what you actually want to be running is Appaloosa, IEP Masquerena, Ancient Warriors, maybe a Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Phoenix, even Firefighting the Rumor Doll you could consider. Didn't come up that much for me. I didn't feel like I need to include it, but technically in this deck you could. Double Rugal, because sometimes in the grind game you will be able to use the effects of the Tri-Brigade some more. Technically you can cut 1. 1 is still fine, but I felt like 2 actually did the trick if you don't have anything else to run, but this would be one that you could swap out with the Ancient Warrior card, for example, and then you still have enough. Raster Liger, obviously your budget access code talker or Appaloosa, however you want it, and this is your Tri-Brigade boss monster. It's nice removal, and it helps you push for game, because usually Spright has a bit of an issue, especially in the budget variant, to actually put damage on board. This one does not so much, because you have this card that not only clears your board, and funny enough as well, Spright Elf can help you trigger the effect of Shurik that came up like once. It's not crazy often, but technically it's possible, so keep that in mind. Other stuff to consider, obviously, Called by the Grave, Crossfire Designator, Hand Traps, very good stuff. And I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, have a nice day.